I remember in the 70s when Sunil Gavaskar was at his peak, you think that he is playing a very slow game, but suddenly you find that he has scored a century.
Yes.
So sometimes, actions are taken rather silently, but they are not visible. We reached a peak at 7.8%, and thereafter the inflation has moderated in the subsequent 3 prints. The latest was 6.7%. And the inflation, why I am saying inflation and inflation expectations are also getting anchored, is because if you see the all around the way the various analysts and the market participants are looking at the economy, we do a survey of professional forecasters, we do a survey of investors, we do a consumer household survey. We do a consumer survey and a household survey. Now all the indications, all the the survey results are pointing to the fact that inflation is expectations around inflation are getting anchored, and the bond yields also are especially at the long end, they are also reflecting the fact that inflation is getting anchored. I think at this point of time, according to our assessment, inflation has peaked and it is expected to moderate going forward. Inflation expectations are also getting well anchored, but we have to be, there's absolutely no room for any complacency. Consumer inflation is still at 6.7%, and we need to bring it down, as I have said in my minutes, first below 6% and then move closer to the target rate of 4%. I think there are several uncertainties, but just to repeat myself, inflation is moderating, expectations are getting anchored, and I think our macroeconomic fundamentals and the financial sector stability, they remain quite resilient.
I'm tempted to frame my next question around that. So can I say that Reserve Bank of India, in cricket terminology, is no longer fighting with inflation on the front foot, you've come on the back foot?
Our approach is to choose the shot depending on each ball. In cricket, sometimes you have to play front foot, sometimes you have to play back foot. But by and large, ever since the pandemic began, we have been playing in the front foot, and I think even at the current moment, we will play in the front foot, but when it is necessary, we will step back and leave out 1 or 2 balls and maybe go for a slight, a late cut. I remember in the 70s when Sunil Gavaskar was at his peak, you think that he is playing a very slow game, but suddenly you find that he has scored a century.
Yes.
So sometimes, actions are taken rather silently, but they are not visible. So therefore, you have to really, over a time horizon, if you see, the Reserve Bank has been acting steadily, but because of this sudden development of the war in Ukraine, when suddenly the oil prices, the crude oil prices touched 130, then came down to about 120 and remained thereabouts, and commodity price markets were hit, the edible oil supplies were hit, fertilizer prices went up, there was a sudden spike in inflation. Now that sudden spike in inflation required that we increase the pace of scoring the runs. But we have been playing quite steadily. And going forward, I think the incoming data and the way the situation unfolds, as I described the inflation growth dynamics, how it, the dynamics of inflation and growth, how it plays out, that will determine our future action. Beyond that, it is very difficult, and it's not desirable also to give a forward guidance that we will stop or we will increase more or we will increase less, because you see it creates unnecessary expectations, and you may not do what you are saying today because the situation is so dynamic and so uncertain.